Hey, this is Don from Padlock Technologies again with another video. Still feeling a little under the weather, but I got a question and I got a little energy, so I'm going to answer it for you, and hopefully you'll like this video even though I'm not feeling really good. So I basically got a question on the easiest RA VPN to configure. And out of the big three, Cisco, Palo, Fortinet, Fortinet is by far the easiest RA VPN to set up. Pretty much, Fortinet is pretty much the easiest setup out of the big three, right? So if you're coming into this game and you're trying to learn your first like next generation firewall, FortiGate is not a bad option to start out with if you want to do it on your own. Now, if you're trying to learn from a work environment and they got Palos or they have, Cisco secure firewalls, learn on those. But I'm telling you, if you master those, Fortinet is pretty easy, right? But for somebody that's just coming in, I would probably go to Fortinet first, learn how that works, learn everything about a next generation firewall, and then move to the other vendors, right? Because you're going to see all three of those vendors in the space, and you'll see some other ones, but the big three, again, are going to be Palo, Cisco Secure Firewall, and Fortinet. You're going to see those in every environment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you, a brief setup of RAVPN in the lab, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like from a client standpoint. Again, now if you don't know anything about Fortinet firewalls, I'm going to put a video somewhere over there somewhere, and that's going to give you a brief overview about the Fortinet firewall. Watch that video, get familiar with it, and then come back to this. Now, there is a caveat to this. You need to install a certificate on the firewall before you can do the SSL VPN firewall. If you don't know how to do uh, install a certificate on the FortiGate, I did a video on SSL decryption. Again, I'll put it over here somewhere. That will show you the exact process of installing the certificate. Now, I did it a little bit differently in this video. The certificate, I used OpenSSL to create a PFX file or a PKCS12 file, if you want to call it that. But the extension is PFX, right? And if you're a network engineer, you need to learn how to use OpenSSL because a lot of the certificates are now being generated using OpenSSL. I might make a video on that if you want to see how to create a quick video on how to create a certificate using OpenSSL. Put it in the comments below, and I'll make a video on that. So now let's go in the lab, and I'll show you exactly how to do this. All right, so we're in the lab now, and this is basically every firewall lab you probably didn't seen. But this is really my Palo lab, but I did throw some FortiGate firewalls in here. So the main firewall that we're going to work on is this one right here that I'm circling right there, which is the DC40 firewall. Okay, now the client is this machine up here. That's going to have the FortiClient already on it, and then we're going to go ahead and connect to this DC firewall, and then we'll try to, access probably I'd say my ice GUI or something like that. So let's go to the FortiGate and let's check this out. So this is the FortiGate. You've probably seen this a billion times, so we don't need to go through this. I have my SSL VPN widget here. You see no active users. So first things first, before we get into this, we want to make sure from an authentication standpoint, we set up some type of authentication, how we're going to do this. Now, I'm not using ICE for this. I'm using LDAP, right? If I want to use ICE, I'll probably make a video about how to integrate this with ICE, but right now we're just using LDAP. So we create our two LDAP servers here, and we have our LDAP servers. Make sure you use that SAM account name because it's by default says CN. You don't want to use that. So I'm putting to DC1 and DC2. Next thing you need to do is you need to actually create groups. So here's my RAVPN user group that is referencing the RAVPN AD group. So if we look here, we have our 81 and 82 referencing the RAVPN AD group on AD. Now, you're probably asking, how did I get that AD group? Well, what you want to do is go to your security fabric and your external connector, and you want to create a new connector that points to AD. So you just hit the new button here. You see pull Active Directory servers, and then you fill in the appropriate information there. So now that we got that, the next thing we need to do is we need to go from a certificate standpoint here. So that should be Where is certificates again? System, and then certificates. And then here's a certificate that I put in right here. This is a PFX file that I imported. And let's just open that up. As you can see, my certificate is there. Perfectly fine. Now, if you want to upload a certificate with PFX, once you learn how to do that, you just hit certificate, you hit import certificate, and you say PKCS12 file. You upload it, put the password in, and then it put it into the system. Again, if you want to see a video on how to create a PFX file, which if you're a network engineer, you should know how to do it because that's the way everything is going, and it's a lot faster to create your certificates using OpenSSL than trying to do it through GUI and stuff like that. And trust me, coming from somebody that did not use command line or OpenSSL to create certificates, once I learned how to do it and did it a couple of times, now I just prefer doing it that way instead of actually doing it through the GUI because I could as always you can do everything faster in CLI. And plus I love the CLI so much. Now, once that's there, we want to go to VPN. Now, the one thing you may not see here is this SSL VPN section here. And you may just see IPsec tunnels. If you see that, you need to turn on the feature. That will burn you when you get in here and you're like, wait a minute, I don't have that feature showing. So in order to do that, we go to System and Feature Visibility. This was turned off when I first had the firewall, so I had to turn this on as feature availability. And then I saw the SSL settings in the port. So what we want to do is we're going to go to settings. And like I said, this is the easiest RAVPN to set up. It's way easier than a secure firewall and definitely way easier than on the Palo Alto. So what you want to do is you want to say what port or what interface am I listening on. Obviously, I'm going to say the WAN port, the outside port. And then you want to change the actual listening port. Now, by default, this is 443. That conflicts with the actual GUI port. So you got to change that. I just did A443 for this one. And then I picked the cert that I imported. Now, we have a bunch of these certs, but I'm just going to use the 40 SSL VPN cert that I imported in there. Allow any hosts. I actually created this address pool. Think of this as your address pool on a site-to-site VPN for an ASA or Palo or secure firewall. It's just what IP address are they going to get, right? Then I specified, obviously, local DNS server so I can resolve things internally. And then this is where you're going to do the port mapping here. Now, this all other user groups, you can't delete this. You can delete this one, but you can't delete this one. Right now, normally you just leave this blank and they don't get access to anything. But originally, before I set this up, I was going to use the all users and groups, but I feel like giving you a real world scenario where you're going to map a user group to a certain tunnel. So what we do is go in here and we hit create new, you create the group, you pick the group that you want to use for this for authentication, and then you say what kind of tunnel you can get. Now let me tell you the difference between the two. Tunnel access is split tunnel. Full tunnel is basically coming back. Everything goes back. So if you want to get to the internet, you're going to come to the FortiGate and go out. Split tunnel is, hey, whatever I want to go through the tunnel is going to go through, and whatever I don't want to go through the tunnel, which is like normal internet traffic, use your local internet out, right? So once that's all set up there, then you go to your portals. So right now I got two portals, full access. As you can see, if I go to full access, it will I can disable it or I can tunnel it all the way through. I'm not using full access, I'm using tunnel access here. So what I did was, hey, routing address override. Now this is a little weird, right? Think of this as your split tunnel policy on an ASA or a split tunnel on Palo or secure firewall. What you're basically saying is anything in this address group I want to send through the tunnel, everybody else don't send through the tunnel, right? So I only did my internal server network, right? Obviously, the address pool was going to be the address pool that I created, and that's pretty much it. That's really all I did. Now I could do. Actually, I'm gonna do this right now. We're gonna do DNS split tunneling. So basically, what this is if I want to, anything that is not internal to me, I want to send through my local internet breakout. So basically, if I wanted to go to google.com or something like that, what I'm going to do is use my local DNS resolution. So if I'm going out to Google to resolve DNS, it will use Cloudflare or Google or whatever to resolve that. But if I want to resolve anything that's to my domain, plt.com, what will happen is it will send that DNS request through the tunnel to those servers. Now, I recommend people do that because you don't want people to just be bouncing off your internal DNS for things that are not local, right? For internal resources, you don't want them to do that. So that's why you should always use split DNS for any vendor, by the way. So now that our settings are done, we're good to go from that standpoint. Our VPN portal tunnel access is done. You're pretty much done. The last thing you need to do is just have a policy. Obviously, we're not using centralized NAT for this because you don't want to NAT anything for site-to-site VPNs or RA VPNs. And I just created this one rule here that basically says SSL VPN users. Again, we got to use the group of RA VPN users in all because that means anything that's coming in that matches this group going to this network, we're just going to allow it, right? So then we're done. That's pretty much RA VPN on a FortiGate firewall. Now, this is SSL VPN. They do have IPsec, but again, most people use SSL VPN, and that was the question that I was asked, so that's what I'm answering. Now, let's see what it looks like on the client side. So on the client side, let's open this up here. Here's the client. Obviously, you see I have the Forti client. I had to download it and install it on the machine. So here's the Forti client. I'm going to open that up whenever it wants to take its time, the slow. So now we got this VPN name. So let's look at the connection profile here. Very simple to set it up. So basically, I just gave it a name and I pointed to the FQDN. Here's the custom port that I set up, and that's it. Nothing else. Now let's go ahead and log in here. Let me hit connect. And now you see we're all good because you see the status going up. So if there was a problem, it would have, gave you an error message. But once it goes past 40, now you see we're connected here. Let's open this up real quick so you can see what we got. Now, the one thing I do not like on this is you can't see. I'm coming from the ASA world. Remember, ASA was Juniper, and ASA was my first firewalls. Or Juniper Screen OS was the first thing. But from an ASA standpoint, I got so used to that, and secure client, which I still believe is the best RAVPN client out of everybody. We can debate all day. You can do that if you want. The only thing I don't like, the thing I don't like about the Forti client is you can't see the routing table. Like in secure client, you can go in and go to routing or routes, and it will show you what will go over the tunnel and what won't go through the tunnel. This, I haven't seen a way to do that, but obviously I'm using a different version. I'm not using the full version, so maybe it's in the full version, but as of right now, it doesn't tell me what routes are actually going to go through the VPN tunnel versus not going through the VPN tunnel. So I'm connected. As you can see, that's the IP address I pulled. And if you go to the FortiGate, and we'll go to the monitor here. Get out of here, buddy. Why do you keep clicking on that dashboard, man? And then we go down to SSL monitor. Now I had to add this on here, by the way. But if I go to status and we scroll down, remember I saw VPN user 0. Now this may not, when I hit expand, it may not work. So I got to go to, let's see here. Yeah, this is going to be a pain. So I just go to SSL VPN monitor and stuff comes up. So as you can see, SSL VPN tells you exactly here. Now, I'm getting this warning message because there's no two-factor authentication. Haven't set that up yet. But you can see, hey, here's my active user total. Here's where they're coming from. It's a tunnel connection. Now, if I right click, and again, this is the cool part about the GUI. If I right click to this, I can go directly to connection details if I want. Right, shows me some connection details. I can actually go to logs. So if I go to matching logs, user, it pops up these type of logs here. See what's going on. If I go to filter traffic, you'll start seeing, here we go, filtering traffic. And the good part about this is it shows you exactly what users are doing what, right? So you can easily just, if I wanted to, if I go to users, which should be down here, and this is the other good part, I don't have to type in the name. It actually comes up with the name of people that are in the RA VPN. So that's another good thing about the GUI. You don't have to type in the name, and it just finds it for you. So this is all the traffic that it's pertaining to that one user. So now the final test here is to make sure I can actually get to internal resources. So do that. And first things first, we will test out, make sure we can ping there. So we can ping the AD server, that's 81. And we'll just do 82 just to verify. I can get to 82. So we know ping's working, going over to SSL VPN. And then we are going to try to get to the ICE GUI, which is down here, which is ICE Prime 1. We are going to try to get to that. Obviously, Firefox is still trying to become the default browser here. So we are going to go to my internal ICE. And if we're using split tunnel DNS for DNS, there we go. So we are at my ICE instance in DC1, which is again right there. And let's just sign in here. Oh, I was about to put in the wrong password there. And we have successfully logged into ICE without any issues whenever this thing wants to finally show its face. So that's RA VPN in a nutshell. Now you saw me like breeze through that real quick. And again, rewatch this video and you'll learn this RA VPN is so simple to set up compared to the other two major vendors, right? You just saw a couple clicks here and there. Obviously, there's some pre-configuration that you need to do. But as far as like setting up the tunnel itself, pretty simple to set up. So hopefully that answers your question. The person that sent me the email, appreciate the email. And I appreciate being feeling a little bit better enough to answer your video. If you like stuff like this, don't forget to share, comment, like, and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate it. I got about 16,000 views, which I never thought I would have got just putting out videos on YouTube. So I appreciate it. Keep helping me grow this channel. I know you guys are seeing a lot of Fortinet stuff, but again, I am vendor agnostic. I don't really care about the vendor itself. I just care that it does the job. And as a network engineer, you should be that way too, right? Don't drink the Kool-Aid at every vendor, because every vendor has its own problems and bugs. It's about ultimately, why are you doing what you're trying to do, and what vendor will actually help you do that efficiently. This is Don from Padlock Technologies again. Thank you and have a nice day.